watching on the internet can hear the questions. Unfortunately, no transcript today, so you might want to use your recorders today. And lastly, email me your list of player requests for next week. If you could do it by Friday or Saturday, that's great. So I could get that in and posted for the board downstairs. So with that, we'll go right to Coach Lester.
How's it going? I want to thank everybody for being here. As far as an overview, 4 weeks in, offensively kind of chasing consistency really in all phases. We have shown improvement from week to week in certain phases, which is fun to see. Now heading into a bye week, huge for us. Time on task is a real thing in offense, especially in a passing game, and the timing and the precision that it takes. And this is an advanced system, so it's going to be a huge week for us to get our starters more reps, our twos more reps, our threes more reps. So today was a great day. I can't wait to get out there tomorrow to work a little bit further with these guys. So, the guys are competing at a high level. I think everyone's doing a good job blocking for each other, quarterbacks included. Last week we got involved in one, which is great. And so we're excited about that. Excited to just continue to try to improve in all phases. Passing game being the biggest one. That's probably the hardest one. The amount of precision it takes is not easy. We didn't get much of a spring. Cade wasn't there. Sully wasn't there. Luke, I think, practiced 1 or 2 days. Gil wasn't here, and Reese was going to senior prom. So we started this about 8 weeks ago. And we're still going, and they're working hard. So I'm excited about where it's headed. I will open it up for questions.
Hey, Tim. Chad Leistico, the Des Moines Register. Kind of curious how the first and goal package came about, either in your head or meetings, et cetera. And, how do you get Cade Pieper out there? How do you get, envision getting Brendan Sullivan on there? And to build on that, what do you feel like the next steps are for that package that seems to be working pretty well so far?
Yeah, it's been scratch where it itches, and we were struggling inside the 5. I mean, it is what it is. I do envision what I want it to look like when we get down there, in the meantime, we got to be efficient, so, adding a running quarterback into the mix was going to help. A couple of the things that happened early on with some dent on the backside of a play, putting a bigger guy in there like Peep. I've done that a lot of places I've been, and we switched it up from week 1 to week 2. Don't really know what the next there'll be another iteration. It's just, what is it going to be? But just get, the guys love it. The more people we get out there, everyone gets excited and they're ready to go, and everyone's supporting one another. And I think when Sully scored, Cade was the first one celebrating with him. So it's they all just want to get better every day. It's been fun. The fun is in the work, and our guys have been enjoying the different things we've been trying to do to just. Problems are going to come and go. We're going to get better at things as we go, but, making sure we fix them as fast as possible, or, be able to change our mentality to give ourselves a better chance once we figure out that for whatever reason we're struggling, at certain areas. And early on inside the 10 we were, and we've been better. It doesn't mean it's over. It just means it's been better. And so we're going to continue to try new things to give ourselves a better opportunity.
John Seppi, Cedar Rapids Gazette. Haven't had much of a deep threat recently. Is that kind of by strategy in terms of playing to your quarterback strengths, or is that something you're still trying to kind of develop?
Yeah, we're definitely still developing it. I had a couple really good ones last weekend that we didn't call because the way the game was playing out. I wanted to call it multiple times. I did bring it up in a group forum. I got voted down a couple times. But yeah, I mean, the better we run the ball, the easier it is to be explosive, right? And so we've been repping our play-pass game. Our boot game has been successful here recently because of our run game. So yeah, we have a whole package in there, and we have different people we're moving around to try to find them where they belong. We hit a couple early. We missed one. It was like game 2. We had one down. We just didn't throw it, and so that's a huge part of this offense, And did we call one last week? I thought we did. We called one early. We ended up checking down. We called another one. We ended up checking down. we had him ready in the third and fourth quarter. It's just the way the game was being played. Like I said, I've called a game where I've called 70 passes, and I've called a game where I've called 70 runs. We were just running the ball at a really high level, and we had a lead, and we just chose not to take that risk.
Tom Kakert, Hawkeye Report. How would you assess Cade 4 games in terms of what he's doing well and what you want to see him in terms of growth?
This is going to go against the popular opinion. I actually think last game was one of his best games. Everything is about your feet and timing in a passing game, and it was one of his best games last game. Now I had him I think at 11 to 13. I know you guys probably had him a little higher than that. I know he had 2 drops. We had 2 great reads, great throws. Routes weren't run right. We had a 1 throwaway. I called a bad play. He threw it away, which was a good decision. And then we had 1 batted where he was going. It's important for you to look at those things, right, as a quarterback coach. There's sometimes they throw a ball that was about to be picked, and you're happy that it got batted. And then there's times they're going right where they were supposed to go, when they were supposed to go there, and it just happened to get batted, right, because we had a guy open right behind there for a first down, So I was very impressed with his feet. That's what I grade. Can you operate this offense on time? That was his issue in week 2. That probably his worst game as far as his footwork goes, which when your feet aren't set, you're not an accurate thrower of the ball. So I really thought he played a pretty good game on Saturday. He got us in and out of blocking schemes, changed the mic points all the time. He re-racked one from when they slid the front. And so I felt like he did actually one of his best games was last weekend. Throwing the ball, throwing it where we wanted. A couple of the routes weren't run exactly like they're supposed to be, but I would have thrown it exactly the same place. So that's part of the growing pains, and part of the growing pains and the growing process is that's what I have to grade to make sure that he's going. So I really think he's getting better. He's getting more comfortable. Early on, it was like, hot and cold. I think he struggled a little bit in week 2 with his feet, better in week 3. And against the defense that had really made every quarterback they've gone against made him look, scared. I thought he did a really good job of getting rid of the ball. I think there was one decision that I would have done something different, that I wish he would have gone somewhere else. And that was his 1 sack that he took. And, but other than that, as far as running our offense, the timing of the pass game, all the things that he's in charge of at the line of scrimmage for the run game, I wanted to see it all come along, obviously. So does everybody else. But I was very happy with last game, as far as grading him as a quarterback coach.
Adam Jacoby, Hawkeye Beacon. Thanks for your time today, first and foremost. You have the nation's leading rusher in the backfield, and by nearly 100 yards. And for as much as you and the rest of the coaches sort of talked about what the offensive identity was going to be this season, we didn't really hear we're going to have the most productive running back in the nation through 4 weeks. When did you realize that you had sort of something special in the backfield with Caleb Johnson in particular?
I think you notice Caleb is a special athlete the moment you meet him. The first time you see him run, the combination of size and speed and balance and physicality is rare. My biggest question for him was just going to be learning how to see the mid zone run game, and it took a while. He was trying to pick and choose his holes and not just letting the thing develop. There's a certain amount of patience to this run game, and he was determined. Now we watched film together. We kind of went through this summer, went through all the spring games or all the spring runs and kind of where he aborted mission too early, and when he, the one he ended up, they merged the 3 technique on an inside zone and stopped him. And he had to go out the back door and ended up getting the people in front of him, and he ended up scoring on one. He still missed a couple cuts. I asked him on the field today, and he rattled off the 2 that I should have held the line. I could have got out the front door, So that part, as soon as I knew, as soon as he could find the holes and understand the vision and the timing of this thing, because the talent is there, right? He's been working hard. He shows up I don't think there's been a day he's on the field that he's not going 100 miles an hour. And so it's fun to watch a guy who's been so focused on learning this system and what to do, watch him get to where he needs to be. And then there's a point in every play where it's like, okay, now you're gifted. Go do your thing. I got to get him to the right place first. And he definitely has been gifted in that arena and has done some unbelievable things leading our team and turning some runs that should have been probably tackles for loss and turn them into big plays. And then there's sometimes he's not even touched for 20 yards, and he always gives credit to those linemen and the receivers. The receivers are doing one heck of a job coming in and blocking for him and putting the defense in some tough spots. So it's been fun. Really, ever since he started picking up this run game, I thought we had a pretty good player. We got a couple other good ones in the room, too. It's just fun to watch him, kind of put it all together and have success. And he's still working hard and humble, and that's what will keep him there,
Hi, Tim. Scott Docterman with The Athletic. It seems like the passing game is, I kind of call it like an extended feeling out process because of not only your new system, but Cade wasn't there until August. Jacob Gill was.
There's like a long list.
Yeah.
You want them alphabetically? Because there's a long lot of reasons. Yeah.
Injuries, not on campus, going to prom, hopefully, and all that stuff. How have you been able to work through this, through the first 4 games, and where do you see it kind of going and molding in what direction? And because you talked way in the very beginning about you wanted to make sure you figured out what works best for this offense, not just necessarily what you would want to do.
Yes.
And how close are you to kind of getting the passing game to where you think it can be an asset in this offense?
That's a good question. After last week, I think we're closer than it looks. Let's put it that way. I'm a math major. I can look at numbers. But I do think we're getting every single time. We did a couple things last week that we hadn't done yet, as far as receiver-wise, seeing a coverage, understanding where to sit down. But then we missed a couple, and the couple we missed were big ones. There's one that would have gone a long way, and the quarterback saw it, progressed on time, ripped it in the hole, and there was no one there because we didn't run the route correctly in that coverage, and so that's really a huge emphasis this week, because this is a week where we can hopefully bridge that gap faster than other weeks, because we got to get everything oiled up every week, for our opponent. But this week there is no opponent, so opponent is us, so we are trying to speed the curve up as much as humanly possible. And I do think Reese is coming along. I think Jacob's coming along. I do think, watching Dayton and Bowie get involved the last couple weeks has been fun. Caleb's coming along. Caleb's still feeling out some of the timings of some of the routes, and once he does, we know he can make plays, So it's just fun to watch. Everyone's kind of working on themselves, and as the pieces come along, I think we're going to be able to be more explosive, as long as we stay on time. That was probably my most important thing. If you're in the quarterback room, we talk about Kirk Cousins all the time. I loved him. I recruited him. We were his only offer. This is a long time ago. And I still, he's one of my favorites. And he plays the game on time. And there's not a ton flashy about him, but he's a pretty darn good quarterback because he can efficiently run an offense. And so we're getting closer to that point, And so I think it's one of those things you never know how close you are until you keep swinging. And you can't hide from it either. I bluntly say it to the guys all the time, what we need to work on. And we show the film, and we watch the Packers do it, the Rams do it, ourselves do it sometimes, and then on Saturday we missed it. Or we run an out route, which happened in the game, and instead of flattening, we kind of fade the out route. We threw it right where we should. Should have been an easy 10-yard gain, and it's an incompletion. Now we're 2nd and 10. So they just got to know we're going to keep calling it. We're going to be aggressive with it. And but hopefully sooner than later. I wish I knew exactly when it was going to click, and probably when it clicks, it's going to go forwards and then back. It's going to be one of these, The fun part is in the work. The guys are showing up. They know it. They know when their feet are right. They know when their routes are right, and the sooner they acknowledge it, then it normally tends to be fixed really quickly. And our offensive line's doing the same thing. I know there's times where we're getting our angles right and we're opening up huge holes, but early on in the game, our angles weren't very good. We were too flat on a couple plays, and it's fun to watch them. They're older. They correct things by the second half, and we're not correcting things that fast in the passing game yet. But every single time we have a chance to get out there, I feel like we're getting a little bit better. And that's why, looking at the stats, I was excited about the timing of our passing game. And I didn't use it much in the second half because I felt like the game didn't dictate that, even though I really wanted to. But I was actually pretty happy with what we were doing protection-wise, coverage-wise. Watching that defense play against other teams, I was interested to see if we could, handle ourselves in a tight pocket because they were big and they were getting after quarterbacks week in and week out. And we made a big emphasis on the timing. And I thought Cade did a really good job. We didn't get the ton of stats with that because we never went back to it because we didn't need to. But I have a lot more confidence after this week than I did after last week or definitely after Iowa State.
We got 5 more in queue. We'll start with Owen.
Owen Sebring with KGAN. I want to kind of do a follow-up on the passing game and ask specifically about Caleb Brown because at the end of last year he was maybe considered maybe the best pass catcher on the team that was not injured, and we haven't seen a lot of him. Only 3 targets this year, 1 catch. Is there a reason that we just haven't seen more involvement out of him? Has it been just struggling to learn the new playbook, or why we haven't seen a little bit more of him?
No, I think he's really just getting to understand the timing of the game. We've had him targeted a couple times that he just hasn't run the route quite like we needed him to. And he's one of those kids that today was probably his best day. He's really starting to get in it. We got to find ways to get him the ball, but he has to understand in order to be one of our, I'd like to build this thing where we have 7, 8, 9, 10 guys that can run a route and catch a ball, and he needs to be one of those guys. But he has to continue to working on all the little things and the technique and the detail. Because the passing game, if he takes 1 step too many, that ball is out. I need the ball out of the quarterback's hands before the receiver's looking at him. So we better know exactly what you're going to do. If you're going to take those 2 extra steps, it's going to look like we don't know what we're doing. And if you just turn out, there's a hole over there, So that's his main issue. And when he's on time, man, when he catches the ball, do you see the way he punctured vertical? I mean, that part is natural. So we have a couple things to get him the ball, but he's just really got to work on his fundamentals. Really, all the young wideouts need to work on that too. But his fundamentals, when he gets it right, we need him to continue to get better as he goes, and so I'm excited because I do see hands-wise, like the guy makes one-handed catches at practice all the time, and he's blocking really physically right now, which I've been really proud of. So we got to continue to grow his role in the offense without a doubt.
Tim, Elliott Clough, Hawkeye Beacon. Talking about the passing game, it seems that the running game and for the offensive line, they've really been getting some push and things are going well there. How do you translate that to the passing game? It seems like opposing teams have been dialing up the pressure on Cade to get him off his spot. So how do you translate that to pass pro?
Well, it's when you can run the ball, the question is like, what runs are hitting so you can build your pass game off of that, what boots are working. Obviously, depending on the run, you can build a boot off of it, So that's the easy part. As far as these are the runs that we're hitting and these are the play pass and the movements that we want off of that. As far as the drop back passing game, we just have to be better. We have to be more precise with everything we do. But I thought we knew going into this game the run and the movements were going to be big. And we had more movements in the game plan than we had in any other week. We had more play pass in that had been any other week. After watching them play their first couple games, I think they were giving up 6 points a game, and it was like playing the 85 Bears. I said it all week, like we're playing the 85 Bears by the numbers, And so we had a little bit more boot and play pass because that's easier to build. And the pass game, quarterbacks had been accosted, and it never people hadn't got a chance to really even see what areas of the field you can hit because the quarterbacks are only running for his life back there, So credit to them. We did some things protection-wise to protect a little bit more what we thought was more solid. They made an adjustment and pressured us off the weak side, which we made our adjustment again. They got us hot one time because we were just trying to give space for the quarterback to be efficient. And I thought we did that. We didn't cash in on it, which I wish we would have. And we didn't go to the play pass because the run and the boots were working so well. So I think you just continue. It's good to have one thing you can count on, and you got to be able to count on it every week, which is hard to do when they know you can do it. But every team I've ever been on every good team I've ever been around has tendencies where they say we're going to run this play here, and they can still do it. And we got to find what that thing is and do it, and then we got to build that kind of mentality in play passing and boot and in the drop back game. But I am happy with the way our guys are blocking, the way we're running the ball. It's been helping us in situations, be efficient and put points on the board. Maybe not the way we want to do it right now, but the job is to put them up one way or the other, and that's what we've been able to do. But we'll get better and hopefully put up more when we start having more things we can do well.
Mitch Vick, KGAN. Just wondering how the conversations are in the helmet comms with Cade in game, especially you're in the box, he's on the field, and couple quarterbacks talking shop in the middle of a game. How's that been so far?
It's been fun. There's some stuff we've been able to do that I've never had I've made some checks at the line of scrimmage, which I've always thought I say it out loud, but he never hears it. And I can hit this button. Hey, can this? You know what I mean? Like it happened on the Hail Mary. I was like, oh, I had a different protection on, and I was hoping they wouldn't put 2 off the front side edge, and they did. And I was like, shit. And I was like, wait a minute. Hey, 3-jet. Check the 3-jet. And boom, we changed the protection. So there's some things that we're picking up that it's been fun. Really just to keep him calm and to talk through things he might have seen, because sometimes you're going through a progression, you don't see what happens on the backside, and hopefully he did what I told him to do front side, but I can kind of hit him and be like, hey, on the backside there, next time we call this play, we have a counter play to it. It'll be there, So it's been really good. I still have a headset in between that we can talk where I can hear him, other than the hands. The first time we had one time where he couldn't hear me. It was a glitchy or something. We had to take a time. I think it's the first drive of the game. We wasted a timeout. So that's the only time it's really become an issue. Other than that, all he does is to tell me to, talk calmer. Because when I scream, it gets really hard to hear. So I have to stay calm, and which I am pretty calm on game day anyway. But sometimes I start screaming like the no huddle, like when I'm trying to go tempo. For some reason, it sounds better when you say it louder. I'm like, bolt, bolt, bolt. And I should just say run bolt. But I have a tendency to scream, and he's like, Coach, stop screaming. I can't understand you when you scream. I'm like, I'm sorry. So we're getting better at it, but it's a huge advantage for this offense in this system to be able to do it. I don't know how you do it without it.
David Eichel, HawkeyeInsider.com. Tim, Caleb Johnson is averaging about 10.5 yards a carry against stacked boxes, has 6 touchdowns, I think, on 21 carries. What's kind of allowed you guys to have success against a stacked box? They know what's coming, but the offensive line's getting a good push, whether it be Caleb breaking a couple tackles. But I was just kind of curious what your assessment has been. How have you guys been able to do that, even though they know what's coming?
Yeah, it's interesting when you say stacked boxes, because you're right. But we also run different formations than most teams. We're in a stacked formation, if you could call it that. Our wideouts are involved now. They're right there to handle a stacked box. A lot of times you don't see some of the spacing, which is kind of natural in our offense, and which does make the passing game a little bit more difficult. It actually makes it better once our guys figure it all out. There's the same amount of space out there no matter how we line up, right? Lining up a little bit tighter does help our run game. It helps our receivers get involved in those stack boxes, and those corners are going to have to be ready to make some tackles, because of some of the stuff our receivers have been able to do. It also changes. It's not a normal spread passing game, so the throws are a little different. Sometimes visually it looks a little different for the quarterback. They just got to get comfortable with it because there's the same amount of space regardless. And in some cases, being in a condensed set can help because the defense is not used to having a corner that's tilted at a 45. He normally uses the sideline for help, but the sideline's 20 yards away. So when we turn out, you got to go guard us for 20 more yards. So there's definitely some things that help. Now we haven't been taking advantage of a ton of those things yet. But the run game, our sets have really, obviously our O-line and our tight ends have done a phenomenal job. Our assistants, have done George and Bud and Abdul and Liddell. They've done an unbelievable job of helping each guy grow and get better. But we've been doing a good job blocking, but by our sets, we have some things that naturally make it a little bit easier. It's never easy, but it makes it easier.
Hi, Tim. Jack Lito with KCRG. Pardon me for dancing around the same question that John and Doc asked, but when it comes to balance,
a charm. Let's go.
When it comes to balance between the run and pass game,
Yeah.
Are you satisfied with your play calling balance through the first 4 games? And how do you kind of, as an offensive coordinator, work around the chicken and egg problem of you want to be able to run the ball, like you said in the preseason, to establish the pass, but also you want to prove that you can pass the ball to maybe take a linebacker or a safety out of the box?
Yeah. Well, by alignment, they're probably going to be in the box anyway, number one. But 2, the hardest thing I think is I've been very happy with our exploratory. Like we have a script, right? Everyone starts the game with a script. My script got a little bit out of control last week. It had 15 plays on it. People think you just roll through those first 15 plays. That's not how it works because there's not third down calls on there. So you go first, second, and then you got to go to third down. And then you got to go first, second, and then you go to third down. And then you get in the red zone and you flip the whole sheet over and you're not even on that original list. So, it took the whole first half for me to get through our openers, that's really the exploratory point of how are they going to. I have all kinds of things built in there, from play pass to drop back to formations to different shifts and motions, and I gotta shorten that a little bit, I think, just so I can get to because we've been really good in the second half. Once we figure out how they're playing it and what they're doing, we've been able to pin our ears back and be a much more efficient offense. So I do think early on I kind of like where we've been at, because I have a lot of control over it. And then after that, I'm calling what's working at that point, and if nothing's working, I'm going to keep spraying the infield and try to find something that we can get an advantage on. But early on, I'm definitely very, very important. I try to be 50-50, and then once you have confidence and you see what's working and how the game's playing out, I never really look at run pass at the end. Just early on, I'd love to be a 50-50 if everything's cooking, but in the meantime, you got to have that team that can do everything really efficiently. But we're trying to build on our play pass game, our movement game, our drop back game, and hopefully that's only going to make our run game better, right?
Matt McGowan with the Daily Iowan. So Luke Lachey, second leading receiver on the team. What have you seen from him as he's made his way back from injury, and what do you envision his role on this team as well as the other tight ends?
Yeah, just keep expanding it, right? I thought we had actually some good things. We didn't bear fruit in week 2 for him down in the red zone, where we got him in some good situations, and we didn't throw accurate footballs to him, where he could make, he's so good at making competitive catches. And I got to do a better job of continuing. I mean, he's still top. I mean, he's in every progression. He's always 1 or 2. I guess sometimes he's 3, but he's normally 1 or 2. I think the biggest thing is he's getting into shape. Coming back from a major injury, we played him slowly, and we're slowly giving him more reps in practice, and he's getting his wind back so he can play longer. We've rotated a lot early on this is a long season, and he's one of our most important players on our football team and one of our best leaders. And so, he's just his growth is going to continue to grow. He's getting more and more comfortable within the offense, and we have to continue to find ways to get him the ball, naturally, and some by design as well. So, but I'm happy with what he's doing, and he's really blocking well right now. I mean, he's doing a great job. It's been fun to watch him. I don't know any of these guys, so I didn't get to see him in the spring either. So he's coming back from injury, and I'm seeing him block for the first time, and it was okay, but he's really moving people right now. So that's going to give him a lot more opportunity when it does come to play, pass, and boot. When he's a force in the run game. So it'll be fun to watch him continue to grow in the offense.
Great. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thanks for being here. Obviously it's a bye week, and it's a great time for us to, reevaluate, look at some situations, obviously rest. Just trying to look back at where we're at. We're 3-1. Last year at this time we were 3-1. The good news is that we're 1-0 in the Big Ten instead of 0-1. So I think there's some positive things that you look at. Within the 4 games over here, we gave up, 48 points. Last year we gave up 68 points. That's an improvement, obviously, but 13.9 per game that we're giving up, but that's including the, I think a punt return or something like that for a touch, which most of our defensive guys are on anyways. So, points per play, points per possession, yards per carry is all better. Rushing, we're giving up 62 instead of something like 130 a game, which is good, I think. 210 in passing and 180 from last year. So there's a little bit of a difference there, 30 yards, which is obviously has to do with, the passing game and how we're giving up, probably too many explosive plays. At this time, we gave up more explosive plays, and them 3 explosive plays were plus 60. For different reasons, whatever. It's a team game, and whether somebody didn't jam somebody or somebody wasn't playing half coverage when they're supposed to, there's multiple things that go on that we have to get corrected for that. I think our third downs have been better. We're 70%. That's probably one of the higher ones that we had in a while. Red zone, we only had 3 trips in there compared to 11 last year. So the 3 trips in there, we gave up touchdowns, and 2 out of the 3 were on third downs. Should have been, critical downs that we can get. And sometimes you look and say, how can you be 70% on third downs overall? Takeaways were +4, which is an improvement. We worked on that. We took some stuff from Virginia Tech and ideas of, how getting the ball out and try to get, the ball back to our offense in good field position. So I think that's been really good. Just to go back to explain to you guys a little bit about explosive plays to us. I think explosive play for me is 25 yards or more, and that's whether it's a run or pass. Now, there's also some big plays. And when I talk about big plays, big run to me is 15 yards. A big pass is 20 yards. Okay, that's kind of where I picture this in my mind. So I want to eliminate that. I think if you're just playing defense, there's no way that somebody should run a 15-yard run on you with the structure that we have and trying to leverage the ball. And I think that's important, and we're going to be working on that. And I think tackling has to improve to not to do that. And I think with the tackling, if we can clear that up, which we're working on all the time, every day, of making sure that, nose in front of your toes, as I say it, having good balance and be able to change direction, sink your hips, and be able to be in a good football position to make a tackle. So I think that's something that we've been working on and have to, and it doesn't have nothing to do with the effort that the kids are getting to. I mean, the kids are working hard. They're getting there. They're tough. Just got to make sure they finish up some tackles and wrap up and hold on to some guys. But if you look at where we're at, we got a lot of things, and we got a lot of good kids on our team, and it's a great time to get them a rest. But there's also some guys that are playing pretty good that are moving in that need to get some more reps, and they earn the right to take some reps. So it's been a good for us to know that we have somebody in there that you can put in there and give somebody a rest, and I think that's been a good thing for us. We hit some bumps in the road early, obviously to our rivals, but you get bumps in life too. It's how you respond to them bumps when you're going through it, and everybody has them. And there's a lot of bumps. You talked about the bumps here. There's a lot of bumps out there in the real world that we have no idea what they're going through, some other people. So sometimes you just got to appreciate what you have here. We got a chance to play a game of football that, we have a bunch of great guys, great leadership within the program, from the head coach all the way down to the players, So I'll open it up for any questions.
Hey, Phil. Elliot Clough, Hawkeye Beacon. I just wanted to ask about that second starting corner spot. I know we talked a little bit about that before the season. T.J. Hall got the start to start the season, and then it was Deshaun Lee against Minnesota. Are you thinking Deshaun going forward? I guess, what are your thoughts on that second starting corner spot? No, I think with
personnel, I think they're all pretty well equal. I think, obviously I think Jamar Harris is really playing well. Okay, and he's really made some impact, interceptions, knockaway, pass breakups and stuff like that. But between T.J. Hall and Deshaun Lee, I think they're very competitive, and sometimes it's for a feel of the game, how we go about it. Sometimes it's doing practice, how they're doing it, how I see they're working. And the same thing with John Nestor. He really hasn't had a chance. He was really good doing the first part of the season, and he's getting the chance to where, should he be in the game a little bit and give these guys a break. This is really one of the first times, we don't have maybe a guy like Cooper where he's just a little bit more, he's probably the main guy, right? But this is a little bit more difficult as far as saying, hey, these guys are competing, they're doing well, they're all practicing hard, and these guys deserve to play too. And the timing of when you put them in the game, how you put them in the game, it's a little bit tough, and try to manage that as you're calling plays and situations in the game, and you just got to make sure you try to keep that going, and I think they're both pretty competing, and that's all you can do is you can compete, and we'll put a guy in. If somebody gets hurt, somebody else has to go in. And I don't want to be in a position where, hey, you don't play a kid and say, at least he's had time to play. Deshaun, he started a couple games last year, right? And he wasn't the starter going in, and all of a sudden he's the starter. So I think guys have to deal with it, and I think everybody has to deal with that, hey, we're going to put the best guys in to help us win the game.
Blake Hornstein, Hawkeye headquarters. Good to see you, Phil. I wanted to ask you about the strong safety position. We saw Xavier leave the game against Iowa State. We've seen a little bit of Cohen Entringer. I was curious, do you see a gap between those two players, and what is it you like to see from Xavier moving forward?
Well, it's kind of interesting that I think they're both very competitive. They're about the same size, and they move pretty well. And I think there's some times that when a kid goes in there and there's a lot of things that go on in a game that happens that nobody else sees. Somebody gives up a play and everybody thinks, obviously in the back end, everybody says, hey, I seen who was it. My mom was blind. She could see it, right? But what's the other details in it, and where they're jamming people and somebody delivering a guy to you, was it his footwork, whatever it is, has really nothing to do with, when they're putting it in. I think they both deserve to be out there. They've both been playing pretty well and competitive. Matter of fact, I thought, Xavier had one of his better practices. And today he had a really good practice. So it's very competitive back there, and there's going to be this is a long season. We're going to need everybody in it, and the good thing about it is I think they're happy for each other. Hey, when they go out there and do make plays, they're happy that the guys make the plays, and it's a team game. You're not winning by some individual, and I think Xavier, he's been doing a good job in Cohen. They're competing. I think Cohen has some other places that he can play different positions too. So it's based on situation in the game.
Scott Dockerman with The Athletic. I know the numbers are the numbers, the stats are the stats, but there are differences, I think, in some of these bigger pass plays or explosive pass plays. I'll look like last week, I think it was Brockerton or down the left sideline on the perfectly thrown ball, barely caught it in bounds.
Did he catch it?
He caught it.
Okay.
I
got it.
It's nebulous.
I don't know. I'm just listening to you.
Officially, he caught it. Yeah. Okay.
Got it.
And then you look at other plays like whether it's half coverage and the safety's not over far enough versus a safety not getting back on the deepest player. Right. How do you judge those two where one is
competitive, competed with, and it was right there. It was a bang bang, and he was fighting for the ball. Did he get it out? Almost had it out. That happens. I don't know if you guys watch any of the NFL stuff over there, or if you played any kind of football. If anybody in here or anybody in the country that's played football and hasn't gotten beat, they haven't played long enough. Do you know what I mean? They haven't played. Anybody in the NFL. I saw those guys on Sunday night, just watching these guys over there, guy after guy after guy, and these guys are pros. You know what I mean? So if you, when somebody says, well, I've never been beat, okay, well, you haven't played long enough. Everybody gets beaten, everything in their life. You go back all the way back when they played, little CYO football all the way up to their high school years, and then when they go to college. And obviously, if they go to the NFL, they're going to beat if you're a corner. It's how do you respond to that afterwards. That's the important part of it, in my opinion. But yeah, go back to the half coverage over there. What coverage were we really playing it? Should the corner sink a little bit more? Was the safety deep enough on his initial thing? Hey, could he protected it? Ball was thrown 2 yards on the inside of that hash. Yeah, so it's a little bit of a lot of different things. It just wasn't one guy. That's why sometimes the perception out there is like, oh, he gave up. It's a team game. Hey, how come we didn't get there fast enough up front or whatever it is? But I think there's some things that go into all that stuff, and our job is to eliminate that. And we've been doing a better job, in the last week and a half of really trying to focus on your alignment. Make sure that your alignment is always based on your ability to make a play that you have to be at. And sometimes, we got to make sure, and it's detailed every time you sit there, and everything's about details. Are you deep enough on the snap of the ball? Do you have it? Are you reading the quarterback? If you're a half player, you got to read the quarterback. What way is he going? If he's looking over this way, well, then you might be cheating, but I need you to be square cheating it. If he's looking over the other way, you need to be square. Don't break. I didn't say open it up or anything like that. So there's multiple things that go within a play that the guys have to do besides saying, hey, I have this guy or I have this guy. And the ball moves. The ball's in the middle of the field, the ball's on the half. And there's so many different, I have dividers of where the guys have to be if they're on half coverage or, if they're supposed to be a 3-by-3 on a guy or what it is. I think everything has to be detailed. And that's why you have practice and you keep on doing it. Now, you look at it, we have a lot of guys coming back and the experience, but this is a different year. And we have growth, right? We're growth, and every season's the same way. You're getting better and better and better each and every day, and that's why we practice, So I'm very pleased the way the guys have been responding, and whether we were playing not so good last week in the Minnesota game to where, I don't know, 22 plays or whatever for 62 yards, whatever some outrageous stats were, right? But we were playing better and solid, you know what I mean? And it was just a different mindset, and I don't know, it had nothing to do with play calling.
Hi, Phil. John Seppi, Cedar Rapids Gazette. You were mentioning the exceptionally good rushing defense numbers before. What do you kind of see as the biggest, or kind of some of the bigger factors are attributing to your success in that facet of the game?
Well, I think obviously our front line has really been good, and I've got two good backers. So, I mean, it's hard to run the ball against us, I think. And if you go back and look at some of the teams, I don't know, last week, just for example, I don't know how many times they ran the ball, but they didn't run the ball as much as they usually try to run the ball against us. So I think some people understand that, hey, we want to stop the run, and sometimes we don't always we want to stop the run with the four guys up front and the two linebackers, and we'll sneak a guy down once in a while and try not to give up a big play, because there was a big shot play that they try to take, a fake or run, and try to throw over top, and I seen Deshaun Lee he overlapped on the guy on the other side of the field. So, eliminate them big plays. That's the one thing is we want the secondary to help, but we don't want to give up those big plays and let them work it down the field and see how it does. So I think it has to do a lot with our defensive line, how we rotate our defensive line, keep them fresh in the way they play, and it's hard to run the ball against us.
Tom Kakert, Hawkeye Report. Phil, I wanted to ask you about your pass rush. You feel like you're getting enough out of that? And on that third down package where you bring in Brian Allen and Craig in the middle, and your thought process there?
Well, I think, everybody wants sacks, but if you start going to look at it and going back to, on Sunday to watch them two quarterbacks play and how fast they get the ball out, these guys in college are getting the ball out quick. It's going to be hard to get to them as fast as you can. You got to cover them up, and depending if you're playing zone defense or you're playing man, and then we got to decide, on the quarterback, is it easier for him to throw it versus man coverage? Is it easier for him to throw it versus zone? Sometimes I think when we start playing more zone, all of a sudden the quarterback struggles a little bit. Sometimes you play, I think you got to have a mixture of it. But I do think our pass rush, they might not always get there, but the hits, or the hands up, or they're getting pressure on them. They might not get in sacks, but they're still forcing the ball to be thrown, maybe not on, a little bit off schedule. And I think that's the benefit of, we don't have a lot of sacks, but we're giving up 14 points a game, or really 12 points a game on defense, and you sit there and say, we're not good. Maybe to our standards, we're not that good. We're not big on stats of saying tackle for losses and sacks or what it is. Or, we're trying to play as a team and not individual. I really don't care who gets the interceptions. I don't really care who gets the sacks, as long as we get the guy down.
Adam Jacoby, Hawkeye Beacon. Phil, thanks for your time today. Sebastian Castro sort of came into the season as a fringe All-American candidate, and so far through the season, no tackles for loss, only one pass breakup. He had 8 last year. How do you feel about his level of play so far? Are you concerned about the lack of production? And if you are, what do you need to do to get some of that more disruptive production out of him back?
Well, I think he had a couple, pass breakup last week. I think he's had more than this one or two. I think his impact for us is his effort and how he gets to the ball. You see the way he runs to the ball. It kind of generates some other guys to say, hey, if this guy does every time we get, and it's like Hurkett, he does the same thing. But I don't think, probably I won't go there. There's sometimes guys can have a great year, right? I'll give you this example. Sophomore year played out, all Big Ten player, right? Next year, he might have been an all Big Ten player next year, but probably didn't have the stats that he had. And then the next year he does it, and he probably played better than he ever has, and still didn't have the same time. So sometimes it's overperceptions of hey, how impact. Sometimes if you're the offensive guys, you're going to sit there and say, you better find out where 29 is. You know what I mean? And we don't want to throw the ball to him or his side of the ball, or you better watch out if he's coming. So I think there's some factors there. It's hard to repeat and say, hey, he made a lot of plays last year. It doesn't guarantee you're going to make a lot of plays this year. But every day, if you're playing within your system, how you grading out every day based on, that play. This play here, Did you grade out? Did you do your job on this play? And that's what everybody has to do. It's not always going to happen that somebody's going to make a lot of plays. And it's all depends. Sometimes the guy says, hey, he had 10 tackles. Well, in your corner or something like what does that mean to you guys if you had 10 tackles? Well, it means they're going at you, right? So, I mean, you got to be careful there, saying, hey, God, you got so many tackles, you got this or that. And, it's a very interesting game. And, I guess that's why we love being around it. And that's why I guess you guys love to, cover it and see where it goes. But, we're happy where we're at, as far as a team. We're getting the guys rest, and we're looking forward to this, finishing up here and starting on the next opponent here at the end of the week.
Last question,
Chad Leistikow, Des Moines Register. Wanted to follow up on Entringer. It seems like, would it be fair to say he got better faster than you expected? And then is it just a case of he's too good to keep off the field? And how do you envision kind of that? Do you want a timeshare safety going forward, or do you want one guy to win that job?
Well, hey, if a kid earns the right to play, he should play. You got to put him in, and it's the routine of me trying to make sure that everybody's getting a fair shake at it. But I think he has multiple positions. Obviously, the time that he got back was, the beginning of camp. That he was starting to come out. So it took him a little bit longer than to get where he's at now. But I think he can play some multiple positions. I think he can go down and play, the cash. I think he can play, the strong safety. Just like Xavier, I think he can, he's the backup free. Do you know what I mean? So, when you start mixing around, the guy goes down. Okay, Quinn Schulte goes down. Well, hey, X, you got to go over here. Hey, Cohen, you got to go here. You better be ready to have the pieces of the puzzles to put together so we can keep functioning and the engine doesn't break down.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
One thing I forgot to mention, we started a new email system last week. If you're not receiving emails, check your spam folder. But otherwise, check with me and we'll make sure you get on the email list.
All fast asleep?